So welcome everybody to our ongoing Monday morning webinar series where we're bringing in various experts in different aspects of the specialty coffee industry to talk about the work that they're doing, the initiatives that they're doing. I always find these sessions quite inspiring and a great way to start my week and kind of get me thinking about what we're doing with coffee and how we're adapting in this new reality. And, you know, sometimes we kind of address that head on, but like today, I think we're really looking at, as the topic says, different programs that are really investing in and working to empower a variety of coffee farmers. And, you know, before we really get into the meat of the subject, I just wanted to let you all know that, you know, these webinars are part of a series of e-learning and webinar sessions that Willem and I have been building in specialty coffee. Some are kind of free informational sessions like this. Others are kind of more traditional paid courses, but delivered in a new methodology. And we have a roasting business course coming up this week. And also we're starting a roast profiling course this week. And also I want to announce that next week we are going to begin starting these webinars 1 hour later, 9 a.m. Pacific time. I realize that for our listeners in Europe and in East Africa, that makes it a little bit later in the evening for you all, but I really appreciate, I'll say just both to Grayson for being up and at 'em so early for a call this morning, and Joseph for being here so late in the afternoon for you. So today's guests talking about two initiatives that they have are Joseph Mutabazi from Sustainable Growers in Rwanda. I'm really excited to have Joseph on board. He and I worked together side by side in Rwanda during my time there. And I was always really impressed by his ability to collect data, really analyze the data, and really bring an objective look to a lot of these initiatives that are underway to make, help basically funders and the company make decisions about, are these investments worth it? And Grayson, thank you so much for joining us from Bellwether Coffee. I think it's really inspiring that in the whole Bellwether story in general, which I'll have you tell, but it's really cool that a company that kind of on the surface is an equipment company, but as you dig deeper is a coffee company in all aspects of that word, has made such an important investment back into coffee supply chains as well. So I'm really excited to hear what both of you have to share about Bellwether's Tip the Farmer program and Sustainable Growers Premium Sharing Rewards. So Joseph, why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about your background, then I'll have Grayson introduce herself before jumping into the meat of the subject.
Thank you so much, Marcus. Thank you, everyone. My name is Joseph Mutabazi. So I'm the data manager for Sustainable Growers Rwanda since 2014, and I have a background of agronomy, and I've done a master's in development studies. Before joining Sustainable Growers, I worked for the National Institute of Statistics, especially in different data collection projects, including the National Census as well as the National Agriculture Survey. In summary, that's pretty much about my short bio.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Joseph. I'm really looking forward to hear how Premium Sharing Rewards has expanded and grown and evolved over the years since you and I were together kind of putting the pieces in place for this.
Yeah,
and
sure.
Grayson, I'm excited to hear more about you and your background as well, since we haven't met face to face.
Thanks for having me. My name is Grayson Caldwell. I am the program manager at Bellwether Coffee. My background is in sustainable development, like Joseph. I have my master's in public administration and development practice from Columbia School of International and Public Affairs. Prior to working at Bellwether, I served in the Peace Corps in the Dominican Republic, and I've worked for several nonprofits, including TechnoServe and Ashoka that you might be familiar with.
Yeah, fantastic, fantastic. And yeah, I'm excited to hear how your background and your experience, which is quite diverse in the development world, it sounds, informs your decisions as you're managing this Tip the Farmer program. So Joseph, why don't you tell us a little bit about sustainable growers here, and also a little bit about how the premium sharing rewards fits into this much larger project that you're part of.
Yeah, good. Thank you, Marcus. I'm happy to share with you about the premium sharing program. So starting with Sustainable Growers Rwanda, it actually started from the partnership which came from the Bloomberg Philanthropies and Sustainable Harvest Inc. And from that partnership, Sustainable Growers Rwanda and Special Coffee was born. And the aim goal was actually to provide capacity building trainings for women farmers in Rwanda and DRC in order to increase their quality and the value of coffee and international markets. Of course, trying to help farmers to be self-independent economically and boost their families. Since 2014, the program has been able to train over 35,000 women farmers, and their coffee also has been exported through Europe and Africa and the United States of America. So, and working with Sustainable Harvest Inc., we had this great idea from David. That's really came as a very successful program, premium sharing, I would say.
And that's
It was
David Griswold, right? Joseph, the founder of Sustainable Harvest. And
yeah, thank you, Marcus, for explaining that. So David brought this idea of how do we, as a coffee community, make sure that we support farmers that are at the grassroots level and the engine of the good quality cup of coffee everyone gets at the end of the day. So the additional premiums were then coming from the roasters and consumers to fund the project of premium sharing rewards, which goes back to the farmers and motivate them to keep growing coffee, to keep keeping the good quality of coffee cherries. So
when you talk about these premiums, Joseph, how are the funds being generated, right? Is it through just an added price on the bag of coffee, or a roaster committing to some share of their revenues, or what does that first step look like?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it's more of the additional premium which comes from the roaster, because not every roaster really chips in this money. It actually it has to be roasters' passion to give additional premium to the farmers. So pretty much of the funds that we have been using, it came from few roasters plus the consumers at our donor offices in UK and the United States. So all those funds were coming from these people that are passionate about the good work farmers are doing and appreciating the amazing work they have been doing through the quality of coffee they are tasting.
Okay, yeah, that's great, because I can imagine, right, just 5 cents more on a cup of coffee, right, could be $1 per pound back to a farmer, which is a lot when you think about the high volumes. Okay, cool. Sorry to interrupt you. I just wanted to make sure I understood that piece of it completely, and if that had changed at all.
Yeah, you are right. So continuing with the premium sharing program, so the way the program works, we have actually to look at the farmers that are adopting these trainings we are giving them. And then those that are really doing what they are supposed to be doing, and then they get a reward, which is actually an asset of their choice. So we look at the best agricultural practices. We look at the farming as a family business, cooperative engagement, and government initiatives. And since we are working closely with the government, there's very important initiative from the government that we are trying to make sure that the farmers, they are embracing this initiative, since they are very useful, impactful to their lives. That one includes school enrollment, farmers sending their kids to school, farmers securing their health insurance, farmers really having a kitchen garden at home to improve their nutrition. Are they attending these government meetings? Are they really having clean latrines? You know, in the rural areas, you need to have a good latrine to keep your hygiene. So these are the items that we look at, and we have a group of farmers, extensionists, we call them relationship coffee women. They are the ones that even deliver the trainings at grassroots level. They have a team of elected leaders of each farmer feed school. They go as a team to visit each farmer plot and each farmer a home to check on all of these things, and then give points. After evaluation, the farmer will earn points, and then each point will be traded into assets. And to the next slide, Marcus.
Yeah, Joseph, just a question on this slide. As you identified these kind of practices that farmers were going to be rewarded for, right? You mentioned that like the government was involved in these kind of community initiatives. What about the others? Were the farmers themselves polled or brought into the discussion about what activities did they need sort of support with and motivation with?
So for the practices, on agronomic practices, I would call all these coffee cycle practices, starting from pruning, weeding, mulching, fertilizer, compost making, harvesting, and then also goes to quality control, since we also look at the capping score to see whether their quality of coffee is really good, you know, from the pre-work that has been done, including all these practices I just said earlier. So
okay.
Agronomically, that's what I would say. And we look at also at the keeping records and participation in saving and lending groups, because we want farmers to be having access to small loans. And then these groups of saving and lending, they have been very successful in Rwanda in terms of allowing farmers to access small loans to invest in coffee.
Okay, cool. No, thank you.
Yeah.
So there's your next slide, and it's in Kenya, Rwanda, so you'll have to really explain this for
I'll
me.
be yeah, this is a picture which shows all the activities. We actually create this catalog of activities which the extensionists, the women on the right side of the slide, they are relationship of women. They are the ones that even deliver training at grassroots level. They use this catalog to show to you as a showcase to the farmers. This is how your plot should look like. It has to be well pruned, mulched, and you know the other one at the end is the compost. You should have a compost. You should have health insurance. You see kids at school, and you see an image of people, so many people at work. So that's, you know, the community work known as Muganda, and Rwanda has been popular because of this one. It has helped us to keep our country as clean as it is right now. The other one is saving and lending. So the catalog serves here as a showcase to the farmers. This is what you should be doing, and then it has points associated to each activity. You'd see every single activity has points from picture number 1. There's a 3 points, and point 7 and 2. All of that is actually showing the farmers that when you do this is how many points you will earn, and these points will allow you to get the most valuable assets. Yeah.
Okay.
And then after evaluation and after every farmer's call, and then we go to the asset catalog, you'll see every farmer who has a good score will actually start from the cow here, because cow is the most valuable asset, which its cost is nearly $400. And then the second round of score, you will have to select from either a solar lamp, which is also which allows you to charge your phone, or you can either go for a goat or spray or a mattress, or and then the last round of score goes to phone, fabric, and radio. At team level, after having all the aggregates of points, that's at the first one it's for individual level, and then the other one here on the right side of the slide, it's for team level. After having the aggregates of points for each team, we put the ranges of each point and the assets associated to each range. You would see from top 20 to 19 to 20, you have to go for 2 sprays or 2 goats or 1 pig, according to the value. And then the other one is for spray and goat, and then the number you see it reduces based on the points. And then you see the last category with fewer points, it goes with the pruning materials. So this really
those
has...
those community assets would be managed by the cooperative, or how is that handled?
Yeah, this one for the community, the team assets, it is managed by the co-op, because they are shared assets. You see everything here looks like it's shared. The sprayer is shared. The goat, once it has birth, the newborns will be shared across the team members until it gets to the last person, same as the pig. So we have tried to come up with, along with the farmers, of course, which assets can be easily shared among the team members. And then the co-ops take the management to make sure that everything goes right. And then on the left side, everything here is individual. Whenever you pick one, you keep it as an individual asset, and then you have the full right to use it the way you want it.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
We do have a question that came in the chat, Joseph, about this
Yes.
program. You know, there's a lot of sort of economic support built into it. That's the foundation. Is that a correct assumption?
Say that again.
So there's a lot of sort of economic benefit built into the system. Is there also something that thinks about cultural benefits?
Yes. When it comes to cultural benefits, when you look at the individual assets, like at the fabric, in Africa, as you know, every woman wants to look smart. And that really gives them more confidence to, whenever they attend different ceremonies, including church weddings or other special government meetings. So they always want to feel smart, and their confidence is really raised when they put on a fabric. And then fabric is one of the top outfit a woman in Africa would really want to have.
Nice.
And the other thing also is a mattress. Mattress here in Africa, in the last decades, people used to use these traditional materials to make their beds. And then when a mattress came in, to improve their health and to improve their living standards, mattress was...
Oh, that's great.
Really
and of course,
appreciated.
I see the cow.
And they look at it as one of the best assets. Yeah, and then when you go to the cow, it's our culture, and milk is also used in our culture. Even in the weddings, we use milk to serve our guests. It's a special drink in different cultural events. So that's why cow comes in here, and whoever owns a cow in Africa is perceived as a rich person in the village. So a cow also serves as a privilege
Nice.
asset to have.
Yeah, thank you.
Cool.
So your next slide here, Joseph.
Yeah, so the program actually has been able to serve about 7,000 model farmers and over 1,000 farmer teams, which represent over 28,000 farmers. And you would see different farmers here at the graduation. We distribute actually these assets during graduations, and after graduation, we do like a big scale distribution. So you would see farmers here in this picture, they were graduating, and then everyone you see were looking smart. They were actually graduating from the 12 months program we have. Each enrollee has to go through a 12-month training program, which covers the best agricultural practices, the cooperative management, the gender initiative program. After 12 months, every farmer gets to graduate once she has completed over 70% of the training sessions. So during the graduation, it's a good opportunity for us to reward them, since we have also been able to evaluate them. We say we have completed these trainings, and those that have done a good job implementing all the trainings, they are going to be receiving their rewards through premium sharing. So it's a very good ceremony and very amazing ceremony, and you'll see farmers happy, smiling, and receiving their assets as well.
Nice. And so here's some benefits and impact, right? This is your bread and butter, Joseph. This is your expertise. I'm so curious to hear about this slide.
Yeah, good. So we also tried to look at what are these assets really benefiting farmers back in their families and in their community. So you see like nearly 90% of the goats that farmers are receiving from premium sharing, they have given birth, and all these newborns are being sold by the farmers actually to cover their social needs. So one of the biggest one they use to cover the funds from these newborns, it is the health insurance. Here in Rwanda, we have a public health insurance. It is not that expensive. It's like a Obamacare in the States. I don't know how much it costs, but in Rwanda, it is not that expensive. So once you sell one goat, you can cover like 5 people in the household. You see, that's a big deal in terms of insurance. The goat also provides manure, organic manure for the farmers to go fertilize their coffee farms and other small farms that they have. Also, the solar lamp that they are receiving. They told us that they are using it pretty much to light in their homes and charging their phones. It also provides light while they are cooking and working in the evening, because in the community, one can get sick, and then our farmers, they know, our farmers have got the solar lamp, which can help the neighbors walk around to get to the nearest health center. So they are using this even to help the community around. Their children used it to do the homework, and then they have saved money from what they have been spending on buying the batteries for the torch. Normally they use the torch where there's no electricity.
That's
or
great.
the oily lamp. So
cool.
the solar lamp has saved their money.
That's great. I'm going to skip on to the next slide. I think the attendees can read the benefits of the mattresses and the sprayers as well. I just want to make sure we're mindful of timing. And, you know, I think this slide is interesting because it does sort of show what people were actually choosing and their comments, right?
Yeah, this one shows how the community is benefiting from the assets individual farmers have received. So you'd see like mattress, they share with the guests, neighbors. When there's a wedding in the village, they know, okay, Marcus has received a mattress. Why don't we go to Marcus to borrow and then host our guests with the mattress, because it looks like a very good asset for our special guests who came in the village. And for the solar lamp, of course they charge the neighbors' phones. As I said, they lend it to their neighbors when they want to work in the evening to go to the hospital, to go to the to go to do like a late evening shopping, all of that. On the sprayer, they also lend them to go and spray on their plots, of course, using the organic pesticide. And then on the goat, also they share a small portion of manure with their neighbors. Nice. That's what I would say on this one.
No, that's perfect. And this is the slide, one of the two slides, Joseph, that I threw at you because David Griswold sent these to me overnight. But it kind of shows the same idea, right? And this is kind of this was the iteration that I was around for. And, and I think if you want to just talk a little bit, Joseph, you really built something powerful because it's not just contained to Rwanda.
Yeah, we have tried to scale up the program to South America. This one is actually being done in Colombia. You'd see also the program has been successful, helping the farmers as well. Yeah.
Perfect. That's great. So Joseph, thank you so much. I'm sure I want to make sure Grayson has enough time to discuss Tip the Farmer. And I think we'll have a nice discussion. I'm curious to hear both of your impressions of the work that the other's doing as we wrap this up. But Grayson, I want to give the floor to you because you're doing really cool work with Bellwether as well.
Awesome. So yes, so I work at Bellwether. For those of you who are not familiar with Bellwether Coffee, we are leading the charge with a ventless, electric, and zero emission roaster. And we're a tech company that's focused on positively transforming the coffee industry. And Marcus, if you want to move to the next slide. We're concentrating our efforts on two main areas of positive impact. The first being positive impact on the planet. So we're eliminating roast processes that are harmful to our planet with the first zero emissions commercial coffee roaster. And the second is positive impact at the farm. So this is what I'm going to be talking about today through our Tip the Farmer program and our focus on helping farmers earning a fair wage and being able to invest in their own futures. Next slide. So Tip the Farmer helps farmers earn a fair wage and invest in their own futures by empowering coffee drinkers to tip the producers behind each cup. So the program works in three ways. Coffee drinkers tip farmers directly by it's a 5-cent surcharge that's added to each coffee cup that consumers purchase at a participating retailer. And then Bellwether distributes 100% of the money collected to farmers. We also pay all fees that are associated with sending the funds to producers. And lastly, farmers choose how they want to invest the money into their farms and communities. So the goal of Tip the Farmer is to not only pay farmers living wages, but it's really to bridge the connection between consumers and farmers so that farmers are able to go beyond sustainability and really seek progress. Next slide. So we launched our pilot in February, so the program's fairly new. It was invitation only for the pilot phase, and it's currently in 3 coffee retailers who have a Bellwether roaster. So we're at Capitola in Portland, Oregon, Drip Drop Roastery, which is an e-commerce store out of Geneva, Illinois, and Exo Espresso in Miami, Florida. And our first Tip the Farmer partnership with producers is with a cooperative in Tolima, Colombia called ASOPEP. So we traveled with Sustainable Harvest to meet ASOPEP in January, signed a contract, and we front-loaded the contract paying a 19-cent per pound price premium on top of the contract. So what's next? We hope to support 4 additional farming groups in 2020. So the first was ASOPEP in Colombia. We'll also be working with Acodiwe in Guatemala, Pinca Churubampa in Peru, and Bonomo Peaberry in Papua New Guinea. And our hope is we're working really hard to have Tip the Farmer available to all retailers with a Bellwether roaster in May.
Can you talk a little bit, Grayson, about what it's like to sort of identify the producing groups that are beneficiaries of this and what some of the challenges are? I mean, it's interesting that both you and Joseph are in your own ways, working through kind of sustainable harvests infrastructure. I didn't realize at all that that's also where you had piloted that, but I'm sure that there's challenges to kind of manage the cash flow back.
Yeah, so Sustainable Harvest has definitely been one of our thought partnerships in developing Tip the Farmer. So the way we identify farming groups is there's really two tiers of vetting for Bellwether to buy coffee. The first is, does it align with our sustainable buying principles? So our sustainable buying principles are focused on quality, traceability, and sustainability, which we break down to economic empowerment, environmental sustainability, and gender equality. So once we do that initial vetting process, then we really look at, does this make sense as a Tip the Farmer partnership? And so we talk with our importers, we figure out which groups of producers they're buying coffee from. And we are really looking for farming groups or cooperatives that are wanting to form a partnership with Bellwether. It's a new, my dog's barking in the background.
Hey, that's the reality of working from home. I know I'm hearing like people coming and going in my background, and I'm surprised my dog hasn't chimed in.
So we're really looking for people who want to form partnerships with us. It's a new program. We want to be able to run pilots on collecting data on the cost of sustainable production. We want to develop really like in-depth partnerships and be in contact with the producers and with the general managers of the co-ops. We want to hear updates on how they spent the money, though we want to give them the autonomy to spend the money through Tip the Farmer in whatever way they feel works best for their group. But we also want to make sure that they have a fair way of determining how the money is spent. So we don't have like a list of like 6 criteria that we check off, but it's really like having conversations with both our importers and with the co-ops to make sure that it's a good fit.
Fantastic. Yeah, and any challenges that you've run into in these early phases? Kind of if someone, either a Bellwether customer wanted to get involved with this, or someone wanted to kind of try to launch something on their own, a more traditional retailer, for example, how would you recommend they proceed?
Yeah, great question. So so far it's been invitation only, but we're hopeful. Actually, our plan was to officially launch Tip the Farmer after SCA. So this webinar is a bit serendipitous in timing. So in order to participate in Tip the Farmer, you have to have a Bellwether roaster. And we want to make this really painless for our retailers to participate in. So we provide them with a toolkit where they're able to easily add this 5-cent surcharge to all of their coffee products. We provide them with all of the marketing materials that they need to be able to tell the story to their consumers about why they participate in Tip the Farmer. We plan on sharing program updates with our retail partners to show how the money was spent. And then we have like an easy reporting function at the end of every month to collect that money from them. And then we front load the contracts with the farming partnerships. So Sustainable Harvest made a wire transfer on our behalf to ASOPEP so that we know the money's going directly to the farmers.
Right. So it does take an infrastructure kind of behind it to pull this off, right? For a small single location retailer without a Bellwether, it would be challenging, right? This is really a value that you're adding to people that want to engage with producers.
Exactly. Yeah. We're like trying to like wrap up this nice sustainability program because our customers, a lot of them are value aligned in terms of wanting a sustainable roaster. And then this is like a second tier of sustainably sourcing coffee and impacting the lives of producers as well.
Okay. Yeah, very cool. I think it's a really neat program. I'm so happy that you all are launching it. It's like it dovetails really well with premium sharing as well, right? I mean, as a Sustainable Harvest initiative, I could imagine Tip the Farmer becoming just another funding source for that as well, if it was something that made sense for the cooperative to engage that way at the farm level.
Exactly. Yeah. And, with ASOPEP, they have made the decision to invest in co-op level projects. So agreed that, you know, it's not, we wanted to make a program that could be implemented regardless of the context. So if there's something like, you know, premium sharing rewards program, seeing how we can partner with other companies that are doing something similar.
Right. Have you run across anyone, and Joseph, I can ask this question of you too, have there been any groups with premium sharing or with Tip the Farmer that say, yeah, you know, cool, we just want cash and we just want to distribute the cash back to individual co-op members as a third payment or something?
So ASOPEP is our first pilot. So we don't have any examples of that yet, but the cool thing about it is that it can be invested in co-op level projects, or it can just be more cash in farmers' pockets, and we're fine either way.
Okay, cool. Yeah, and I think Brianna on my team as well, just she just chimed in with basically the same question, so that's awesome. We're thinking alike. But yeah, I mean, before we really turn it over to Q&A, you can tell a little bit about where folks can learn more about Bellwether, and hopefully we can start the Q&A with you and Joseph having some questions for one another, because it's slightly different approaches with the same goal, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. So the slide on the screen right now, if you want to learn more about Bellwether, our website is there, as well as the website for Tip the Farmer. You can follow us on social at Bellwether Coffee on Instagram. And then I also listed the websites of the 3 coffee shops who are current partners in our Tip the Farmer program. So they have, some of them overnight moved to e-commerce, given the current circumstances, but are still supporting Tip the Farmer, which is pretty cool.
Nice, awesome. Another question from our audience, from Annalisa. She's, you know, realizing that you've just piloted this, has there been outreach from farmers to become part of this kind of sooner than maybe you all are ready? Do you anticipate having a situation where you would have to deny a farmer, and what might that process look like?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So it's interesting because we're not importers at Bellwether, so we work with importers. So there's still this, like, we tried to take away as many layers as we could to work directly with farmers, but we're still working with our importing partners. And so our goal this year, as I mentioned, is to work with 4 different farming groups. And next year, we hope that all of the coffees that we buy have a Tip the Farmer component to them. But yes, I could imagine that, you know, we want to continue to work with more and more farmers. So as there are more Bellwether roasters in the world, and as we have more Tip the Farmer partners, we hope to be able to support more farmers, if that makes sense.
Yeah, very cool. And any questions for Joseph, Grayson, or Joseph, any questions back to Grayson about their initiative?
I would love to hear from Joseph. He's, you know, you've been working with the Premium Sharing Rewards program. Like, if there's anything that you could have done differently when launching, what would you have done, and any advice you could pass on to Bellwether as we look to make this program available to all of our retailers?
I think the only thing I would advise from starting point when you are piloting the program, you have actually to work closely with the farmers and make sure that at least you understand what will be the best choice of the assets they will go for once they have participated in the program, because at the end of the day, the assets has to be useful to them. So you need to talk to them while you are, you know, crafting your reward menu. A pilot, they don't get enough time to get those kind of feedback from the farmers. They want to rush out and start piloting. In the end, you don't get to taste very well what you want to taste in terms of, farmer's choice. So I would advise you to engage more the farmers you are testing the pilot with, and then try to learn what they really want to see as a reward, or what would really make an aspirational activity they would fight for, to make sure that the rest, when you reward them, whoever who is not rewarded doesn't feel like it's unfair. It has to be something fair and aspirational.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember, Joseph, our times when we were working on this pilot, right? And here we are we were all sitting in an office in Kigali, and we're, urban people, and we had these ideas that sometimes the farmers didn't even care about at all, right? And it kind of got down to the simple things, goats and mattresses, and I thought that was really interesting. So yeah,
yes.
thank you. And Willem is here. I know Willem had a couple of questions about Tip the Farmer, specifically, maybe some others. Welcome, Willem.
Yeah, thank you, Marcus. Can you hear me well? Okay,
Great.
perfect. And I love the concept of Tip the Farmer, and there have been various discussions about this theme with a group of roasters and colleagues in the Netherlands that have become very interested in exploring options, how we can include the farmer in the tip chain. And there is actually also a kind of a blockchain company that's called iFinca that also has been exploring tipping the farmer as an option in their solutions. And and there are always implications of these great solutions. And one practical, I have two practical questions, and maybe both of you might have some comments on this. So how can we make the tip the farmer concept also available for farmers who are in the value chain of coffees purchased through grocery stores, since there is, the purchase of the beans at that point, and how can that be done? Maybe you guys have some suggestions for that. And then secondly, at the retail level, if tipping the farmer is the option, I can imagine that if I would be, as a customer, tipping the farmer at the retail level, then I might be less willing to tip the barista. And needless to say, especially now, baristas need our support more than ever. So I'm curious how you guys look at this.
Great. I'm happy to jump in, especially in the second half of the question about the baristas, because that's definitely something that's been top of mind for us as we developed this program, is that we didn't want to create any tension between farmers and baristas to be fighting over tips. But we also wanted to create a program where the word tip resonated with the customers who would ultimately be paying that 5-cent surcharge per coffee drink. But I think about Tip the Farmer really as branding, and again, a word that resonates with consumers. We're aware that words have different connotations in different areas of the world. And as we think about international expansion, we're mindful of how we'll brand this program abroad. But in the current iteration of the program, when we use the word tip, there's no tip jar. So there's no potential to take away from barista tips, but it's really a surcharge that's added as a line item per coffee drink that's purchased at the retail level.
Thank you. And Joseph, do you have a comment on this? Maybe on the question of the coffees that are purchased through the grocery channel, so not through specialty cafes and retail stores, but more in supermarkets and specialty grocery stores. Any ideas, suggestions?
Yeah, I have a small comment on that. As I said during my presentation, it really requires, you know, more funds to be able to help as many farmers as you can. So if that ever happen, and then you get to have people tip through the purchase in the stores, that would be really amazing, because we'll be getting more funds towards farmers, and then we could actually scale up the program and reach to so many farmers. But in terms of laws, I don't know whether the laws in the States or anywhere in the Europe still allows someone to do, because I know most of the tipping that I saw in the States and Europe is through this direct service, when you get to tip a waiter or a barista. But tipping from actually picking something from a store and then you get to tip, I don't know how people would really embrace that idea and then chip in money. And if really is adopted, that would be amazing, because to be an easy way of collecting more funds towards farmers.
Yeah, and I can speak a little bit of this as well, Joseph, because one of the reasons when I departed Rwanda was and came back to the U.S. was that we needed to find a home for the coffees from these cooperatives that Sustainable Growers is working with, and kind of the other part of that was to talk to a lot of roasting companies, both sort of small super specialty companies and much larger, higher volume companies, and kind of pitch this idea of premium sharing rewards to them. Talking to a major coffee roasting company that does a lot of grocery store coffee and coffee at service stations, kind of just tickling specialty coffee. It was a hard sell, right? Asking them to, either commit to another even 20 cents per pound, even giving them all kinds of tools and techniques to talk about the program and how it was going back to farmers. That was tough. We didn't have a lot of success with that. So I hope that through pilots like Tip the Farmer and it's not a pilot anymore, but through what's happening with premium sharing with kind of more specialty based roasters, this could become an expectation for some of these other companies. But I guess, to dovetail Willem's question, and the question, I don't even know if it's a question, but I think it's like, the question is, do customers care? And, if they don't, how do we make these programs work anyway, right? And so another attendee has a question, can customers decline to tip the farmer on that line item, or it just happens and they see it on their receipt? Is there any agency on the customer's part there?
Yeah, so our coffee shops, we, as part of the pilot, we actually did A/B testing to try an opt-in, opt-out version of Tip the Farmer. And I actually flew to Miami and to Portland and interviewed customers, or our customers' customers, about Tip the Farmer. And what we found was that people were really excited about participating. 5 cents, as Marcus, you mentioned earlier in the call, 5 cents is pretty insignificant for coffee drinkers, as that is like a line item on your receipt, but collecting that across coffee shops and across coffee drinkers can really make a larger impact on farms. So all the feedback that I got from customers was they were really excited to participate in Tip the Farmer and to have that 5 cents added on to their coffee drink. So that we've decided to move forward where it's just a surcharge, like participation in Tip the Farmer is adding 5 cents for every drink that's sold.
Yeah, I mean, I like that because, if the answer to my question is no, the customer doesn't care and we need to find a way to do it. I mean, it's great that they do, but yeah, just do it and make it that line item. People might get curious down the line, right? And try to research what that means.
Right.
Great. Brianna on our team had a question. It was as Joseph was talking, but I think both of you can speak to this, which is what kind of metrics and data did you all collect before your pilot initiatives to establish some sort of a baseline or a benchmark? And now that things have started to be rolled out, how are things performing against that benchmark?
Yeah, if I can go first. But before we prototype our program, of course, we have to look at the things the program does, and then how this initiative would actually help to motivate the farmers to keep, especially loving growing coffee. That was the end goal, because everyone needs a good cup of coffee, and the farmers, they are the engine to get that one. So we look at the program, the way it is designed, and then from there, we said, okay, we have this number of farmers, and they are doing this number of training sessions, and this is what we think will be easy to measure, and this is, we think it is possible to be measurable, because at some point you may actually look something that you are doing and it's really hard to measure or to evaluate. So we had to select which activities can be easily evaluated, and seem that a farmer still feels like it's a aspirational to do that if one hasn't accomplished it. So in terms of metrics, I would say it's look at the amount of activity you have and the activities that are feasible to be evaluated or measurable, and also look at the range of the assets that, or any reward that you would want to use based on what is in the community. What is already appreciated in the community. You have to look at the household assets, or anything which is already popular or familiar to the community that they would really wish to have after completing the program. So we did a research on that, and then plus the program data we have with the number of the farmers we have, with the research on what the farmers in the community really want to have as a reward. And then from there, we set it as a benchmark for us to say, okay, and then let's flag off this pilot, and then we will keep learning along the way, because the pilot also was meant to help us learn more things to be able to make different strategic changes in the program that would help us when we scale up the program. That's what I would say. Thank you.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you, Joseph. I like the way that you think so organically and so community-based about this. It makes the data collection challenging, but I think it seems like really great work is happening. Grayson, any comments on that? Otherwise, I've got another question for you, because I know you're kind of still in the pilot phase. But what have you had some benchmark studies to see how this works long term?
Yeah, so two things that we're looking at is, one is that we want to work towards paying farmers living wages. And as everybody knows in the coffee industry, calculating living wages is so country specific, and even within countries can be very co-op specific, producer specific within co-ops. So that is one thing that we're looking at is the money. As Bellwether, we're committed to paying fair wages, and then we want the farmer to be that payment that's on top of the price that we're paying. But we want to make sure that this aligns with paying farmers living wages. And so we're working on developing metrics to collect data on the cost of production to make sure that, and cost of production will just be one metric of calculating a living wage, but we want to make sure that it's aligned with what farmers should be earning. So that's baseline data that we're currently collecting with ASOPEP. And then in addition, we're looking at, like, does 19 cents per pound make sense to pay as a price premium on our contracts? In theory, 5 cents per cup should be $1 per pound, but we applied some assumptions to some coffee gets spilled, some drinks take more coffee than, just a typical cup of coffee. So we actually found that the 19 cents per pound was pretty spot on from our pilot programs, even collecting 5 cents per cup. But that's something that we'll continue to measure because we're committed to paying 100% of the money that's collected through Tip the Farmer to farmers. So that number might adjust in the future depending on how the program moves forward.
Great. Do you envision, right now you're at this point where you're preloading the contracts, as you said. Do you envision a point where this would actually be like a reconciliation with one of your roaster customers and seeing what they actually collected on a per cup and then giving that, or will it continue to be a preloaded contract?
So it's preloaded contract for our farmers, but definitely something that we would consider. We want it to be a revenue neutral program for our roasters. So definitely something that we want to have systems in place to not audit our roasters, but to make sure that all of the money is being transferred back to the farmers.
Awesome. No, that's great. We're almost at the top of the hour, so I want to say, thank you so much, Grayson, for joining us this morning, Joseph, for coming in the afternoon at the end of your workday. Really inspiring for me to hear about these initiatives. I think you're both doing incredible work, and I didn't anticipate them dovetailing quite as much as they did when I called both of you, but I'm happy to learn that they are. I think that's really nice. We will continue having these discussions. As I mentioned at the top of the session, in the future, we will be starting 1 hour later. And we have a number of different topics that are queued up. I'm just waiting on speaker confirmation to finalize the dates and post them to our calendar at bootcoffee.com. But we're gonna hear from some estate producers that are talking about how they're innovating for quality. There's a lot of discussion also happening with brewing great coffee. And I think as more people are brewing at home, I'm excited to hear that. I wanna continue also talking about coffee at home and discussing some third-party subscription services, as well as providing some takeaways for e-commerce and strong branding for consumer sales. And I really want to learn from other industries as well. So we're looking to bring in some folks from the wine industry and other areas that are talking about direct to customer delivery. So I hope that you all can join us for some upcoming sessions. And thank you, everybody. I really do appreciate your great presentations this morning and the thoughtfulness and the time that you put into everything. I'm curious to watch how these programs evolved. So everyone, please follow Tip the Farmer, follow Sustainable Growers, and let's see how this works. Hopefully, if anybody's interested in specifically engaging with either of these programs through Bellwether or through Sustainable Growers, you can reach out to us directly and we can put you in touch. Marcus at bootcoffee.com, or we can also, you can just find them directly through their websites. So thank you, everybody. Willem says happy Monday and a successful week in the chat. I think that's a great way to wrap this up. Bye, everyone.
Thank you so much, Marcus.
Marcus.
Thank you.